Welcome, 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 welcome to the Dr. Boyce Book Club. It's so good to see everybody. I hope you're doing well. Let me see who's in here. Let's see. I'm going to click on the participants link. Here we go. I see Anthony. I see Alfred, Alexander Williams, Annie, and Akila. And I see an attorney Latifa Muhammad. Very nice. Chris Rasdell. Hey, Regina, how are you? Shari Knox and Chris and Daryl, Dion. I see. Name your city. I love it when you guys list the cities you come from. Let's just see Weberton. What is Weberton? I don't know what Weberton is. Weberton is your name. Oh, sorry about that. Akila's out of Philadelphia. Yeah, y'all got a lot of crazy stuff going on in Philly. It's very dangerous right now. Let's see. Duran and Terrell Reed. How you doing? Let me see. Put your city in the chat. Derek from Nashville. Regina from St. Louis. Who else? Let's see. Bethany from Atlanta. Cleveland. Teresa from Cleveland. And Elizabeth and Givemore from Washington, D.C. And Elizabeth's out of New Haven, Connecticut. I see you. Journey Nicole out of Pickerton. Is that Pickerington, Ohio? I can't even pronounce it right. Hey, Neva out of Connecticut. And Jocelyn, Victoryville. Is that Victorville, California? Nice, nice, nice. Okay. I see. Oh, wait. I saw Gary. Don Trails from Gary. You know, Gary's like one of my favorite cities of all time because they obviously produce the most beautiful women on earth because that's where my wife is from. James Keller out of Philadelphia, and Sheila, how are you from Plainfield, New Jersey, and Christopher from North Carolina, Deshaun Farad, how you doing, brother? New York City. All right, so let's go ahead and jump right in. First off, I want to say hello and give you all a big B1. I'm super excited about the book club. I think it's a great time for us to really, just play catch up. It's like this great thing. Today I was on the phone with Dr. Claude Anderson, and I call him every week, and we check in, and he's always talking about Black people. He's always talking about the things that we can do better. He's always talking about the things that his hopes and dreams for the future. He has so many. He's always talking about you, even when you're not there to hear what he has to say. And he sends his greetings. He's not feeling so great. He's older and he's a little tired, but it's okay. We got you, Dr. Anderson. We got his back. I told him, look, don't worry about it, man. We got this. I said, you laid out the blueprint. We are going to carry the torch, right? And I want you to carry the torch. I want you to carry the sword, swing that sucker, and make sure that the world knows who our heroes are. One of the most important things we must do as Black people, Black History Month is happening right now, is I believe that we should be the ones teaching ourselves history. We should be the ones deciding who our leaders and heroes are going to be. We are the ones who decide all of that. We are the ones who decide what our priorities are going to be, what our culture is going to be, what we believe. Seriously, I think that's really important because there are a lot of people who still believe that the things you learn should be defined by the educational system. I don't believe that because the educational system is terrible and it's failing. It produces hundreds of thousands of children that look like you and I who can't even read. Why would you lean on a failing system to help you succeed when the system has shown that it only produces failure for the most part, right? So ultimately, when you're talking about these conversations about critical race theory, I told y'all I'm not in that debate. If you notice, I'm not in that whole like, oh, we need critical race theory in the school. Sure, okay, great. But you think I'm dumb enough to let my oppressor teach me my history? Like, you really think I'm gonna let a system run by my oppressor teach me who I am? You ain't got no parts in this conversation. You just see your ass up out the door because I'm not gonna let you lead that conversation. Period. Ever. Period. Not one iota of that. So at the end of the day, I believe we can be the school system. I believe also Black History Month is where we learn the history that we missed as kids. You went to school, they taught you a bunch of BS. Now you're getting a chance to learn from people like Dr. Anderson who give you the breakdowns. For example, little things like the fact that they didn't really even start talking about race in terms of black and white until about 1630. That's when they started referring to people as white. So remember when Whoopi Goldberg got suspended from The View, she was basically making a statement that is true in a certain context. Based on the way America is structured with white people and black people, she said those are white people fighting against white people. Now, the Jewish side, they actually had a good point. They said, no, it was racial. You know, we looked white, but we were different from the Nazis, right? We weren't white the way they were white, right? We were seen as a different race. That's actually true too, right? You know, it's true. But in America, what happened is, and Dr. Anderson's the person who explained all this. That became the great unifier. The oppression of black people became the great unifier, where the white people in America said, hey, I'm white and you're white. And if we all come together and we all just sort of become part of the same category, then we can find a way to exploit this group of people who look different from us and make money from them. Now, one other point Dr. Claude Anderson made today, and I'm going to start reading from his book in a minute, but I wanted to share with y'all something else that he talked about, is he talked about something that's probably going to be a little controversial. It almost sounded like he was making the argument that slavery is it's a choice. That, you know, I remember Kanye said it, and it was kind of crazy. We ain't gonna talk about Kanye now because that poor guy's going through it. There's more to say, but I did a little snippet on my Instagram. My Instagram's a real Boyce Watkins. If you want to hear what I had to say about Kanye, you can go check that out. But I'm not gonna talk about him today. God bless him. I hope he gets the support that he needs. And Kanye, if you're listening, call me. You got my phone number. I'd be more than happy to tell you what I think. Because y'all, I ain't gonna say it in public. Because you would never see me marrying a Kardashian anyway. I just gotta throw that in there. But here's the thing. Dr. Anderson made the point that that there is such a thing as refusing to be a slave. Like there is such a thing as saying, you know, you're not going to enslave me. If you make me a slave, you better not go to sleep. You better not go to sleep because you'll never get a good night's sleep for the next 40 years because every time you go to sleep, that might be the night where I get into your room and finish you off. Right? Seriously, that's what the Indians did. Yep, that's right, Bernard. Right? So ultimately, there is a choice. It's a hard choice, but it's a choice. Also, another thing Dr. Anderson talked about today, now that I'm thinking about it, is he talked about some things, again, stuff you never learned in school. He mentioned how Andrew Jackson, I hope I say it right, basically went and collected slaves in Spanish territory. At that time, I guess Florida was still Spanish territory, and he violated international law by going across a border to go pick up slaves in Florida. And he got a bunch of them in Florida, and then somehow and I'm sure I got to understand the connection, but there's the Trail of Tears where they made a lot of people, Native Americans and Black people, walk all the way out to Minnesota and put them out in the Minnesota territory. And also, one thing Dr. Anderson talks about is that slavery could not have happened the way that it did without the help of some of the Indian tribes. That the Indian tribes, they were paid. He's very specific in his book about exactly how much they were paid to hunt down slaves. You got, $20 if you brought back the body, $25 if you brought back the scalp, or the other way around. It was something like that, right? So one of the things that he mentioned today, and I'm gonna mention this, and I'm gonna go into the book, is he talked about the fact that you really don't have any friends, you don't have any allies. And that actually leads us into what I'm going to read on page 196 of Black Labor, White Wealth, which you can get a copy, by the way, on powernomics.com, about integration and why integration was a false illusion, why integration did not work, why integration stole Black wealth, why integration has set you backwards. It doesn't mean you have to have complete separation, but you have to have enough separation to be able to form an aggregation that allows you to have an anchor that gives you the same strength as a community that other communities have. Right, so it doesn't mean that you can't engage with other people. It would be unrealistic to think that we can live in a world where I don't talk to a white man ever for the rest of my life. I mean, that I don't need to live in that world. I have white neighbors; they're very nice people, but it does mean that you need enough segregation so you can have some accumulation and aggregation. Right, aggregation. You aggregate your power. You bring your power together so that you build a power base, and then you can start accumulating things. You accumulate wealth. You accumulate resources. Right. So ultimately, integration was terrible. It failed. That's the reason why you have multimillionaire athletes on TV right now begging, crying, and pleading and suing and everything to get the NFL to let them have a team, right? To give Master, please, just give me 2% ownership in one of your NFL teams. I'll even take one of the bad ones, ball. Just give me about 5%. And then when they get that 5%, people are going to be like, oh my God, we got 5%. Lord Jesus, we free now. 5%, 5%, who cares, man? That's crazy to me. When you have the Negro Leagues, you have 100%. Set the bar higher. Stop selling yourself so damn short. I keep on telling you guys the Chicago Bears were purchased for $100. They're worth $4 billion. You can grow your own assets. You don't have to go beg for them. So let me jump in and actually, speaking of that, there was a great interview I was able to do today on Dr. Boyce TV that you guys may want to take a look at. I interviewed Larry Miller, who is the chairman of the Air Jordan brand. He took the Air Jordan brand from about $300 million a year to I think $2 or $3 billion a year. He's extraordinarily smart. He's got an interesting story about incarceration, things like that. If you want to go check out that interview, go to drboycetv.com and you can see what he had to say. It's a really interesting conversation that we had a chance to have today. All right, so page 196, Black Labor, White Wealth. You can get copies at powernomics.com. It says strategy 6. These are strategies for Black people to develop power. So he mentioned strategy 6, which is building a strong sense of community. Now, strategy 6 is the sixth, obviously the sixth strategy out of, let's see, the other strategies were strategy number 1 was leadership. Strategy number 2 was wealth and capital formation. Strategy number 3 was wealth and group economics. Strategy number 4 was Black underemployment and unemployment, dealing with that. Strategy number 5 is Black and white psychosocial behavior patterns, changing your damn behavior. Stop acting like oppressed people, and then maybe you won't be so oppressed. Strategy number 6, building a strong sense of community. It says, since for many years, Blacks lacked sufficient power to protect themselves, their families, and their communities, they were unable to develop a strong sense of community. However, their sense of community and peoplehood was stronger prior to the 1954 Supreme Court desegregation decision than it is today. Prior to the decision, meaning prior to integration, segregation forced Blacks to be interdependent and more unified. They were concerned about the welfare of others in their group. They valued and respected Black role models and aspired to emulate them. They imposed sanctions and consequences upon members who caused disruptions. So you come into the neighborhood, you do something to a little girl, you might come up missing. You know, you come into the neighborhood, you try to take money out of the community, well, that's going to be a problem, right? So they were able to have rewards and punishments that enforced a code of behavior and conduct that was necessary to fortify a community. Now, I ask you this, now are our children protected in our communities? Do our children feel safe in a lot of our neighborhoods? Yes or no? I mean, do you think that they're safe in the south side of Chicago and the west side, in parts of Philadelphia? No, they're getting shot kids getting shot everywhere, right? And that's another debate I refuse to really jump into is people would like to come up to me and ask my opinion on the police shooting of the hour, whatever the latest police shooting is, and they'll say, Dr. Boyce, what do you think about such and such? Aren't you outraged about the shooting of so-and-so? And I say, yeah, but that's after I get outraged about the 27 kids that were shot in Chicago last week that you didn't even talk about. You ain't got nothing to say about that. I don't take my cues from CNN. I don't look to a failed news network that to tell me what my priorities need to be. No, my priorities are the little Black boys and little Black girls that are getting shot up in the streets. I can't just sort of skip all of that and only focus on a police shooting just because white people decided to talk about it. You need to decide what conversations are going to be led in your community. You're the boss of that, not them. Anyway, let me keep going. So it says they impose sanctions and consequences upon members who cause disruptions. For instance, elders were more willing to admonish and help teach neighborhood children right from wrong. Remember that? You know, anybody ever grow up in a neighborhood where you might get whooped by somebody else in the neighborhood, and then they call your mama and tell your mama that they whooped you, and then your mama's like, well, why did you have to whoop him? Remember that? I'm not saying this is okay. I know that the whole spanking conversation is debatable, right? So I'm not here to tell you that it's right or wrong. I am here to say, though, that there is something about that village that we lost. And if you want to see the evidence that the village is gone, go look at some of the kids' behavior in these public schools. Don't get me wrong, the schools are terrible, right? We know that we got some bad teachers out here. We know racism's real. But some of these kids, I wouldn't be able to teach them. God bless Every good black teacher in here that is fighting with these damn kids. So some of these kids are sent to school with zero home training, and you literally want to like choke them and throw them out the window. Like, and they asking for that. They coming in gangster. They coming in ready to rumble. How the hell are you gonna teach a kid like that? It's almost impossible. It's almost impossible. So a lot of this is a reflection of the loss of the village. We're not disciplining these kids, so they have no discipline. Pay attention. Remember, when you don't discipline your kids will have no discipline. That is not a complex statement. If you don't discipline your kids will have no discipline. We're disciplining our 14-year-old right now. She don't want to get up in the morning. She keeps missing the damn bus. So you know what I did? I got on my app, my Amazon app. I'm a Prime member. Thanks, Jeff Bezos. And I said, you know, I told my wife, I said, I'm gonna order a goddamn bullhorn, and I said, I'm going to help you. I'm going to help make sure that you get to school so you can get a good education. So I got a bullhorn. So when she decides she wants to roll back over in the bed, when she thinks ain't nobody looking, or you know how kids are, you wake them up and then you walk away and then they roll up and go back to sleep. I'm gonna have a bullhorn, and I said I'm gonna use my bullhorn and play 90s hip hop music, which makes her sick. She hates it. Right? I'm gonna blast 90s hip hop music and use my bullhorn to make sure you get a good education. That is part of the village. That is what the village does. Well, when our 18-year-old was having some trouble getting through finishing school, grandma stepped in. His two fathers stepped in. His mother stepped in. The village came together to make sure the kids stayed on the straight and narrow. And a lot of y'all already know what I'm talking about. Some of y'all I'm preaching to the choir, but some of you who don't get it, I need you to understand these things, especially if you're going to one day have children. You've got to fight for the control of the minds of your little ones. If you do not fight for that, then the world will take your kids and turn them into wildebeests that you don't even recognize. Your kids will turn into something they're going to be imitating some stupid wannabe studio gangster that they saw in a rap music video. They're going to be imitating whatever they saw on TV. They're going to come back talking about all this stuff that they're teaching in school. Well, mom, dad, you're not using the appropriate pronouns or whatever, right? They're going to come back with a whole bunch of values that had nothing to do with you. If you don't step in and impose your will, you must impose your will and make them uncomfortable. Because if you don't discipline your kids will have no discipline. A lot of our kids are going to school with no discipline, and then the first time they get discipline will be when a police officer puts a billy club upside their head and drags them off to jail. That's, for some kids, that's the first time they get disciplined. All right, now do me a favor, hit the thumbs up button and stuff like that. Give me one second. I gotta run and turn this heater down because I'm burning up. Give me a second, guys. Okay, I'm back. Let's keep going. All right. So he has an analysis here, Dr. Anderson, on page 196 of Black Labor, White Wealth. He says, 1, the minority and immigrant labels, when applied to blacks, are not only misleading, but injurious because they mask the unique history and status of Black Americans. So he always mentions that you are special people, that you're not like an immigrant. You're not an immigrant. This is your country. You own this damn thing. You built this. That's very important. Blacks were never immigrants by definition, nor in terms of the treatment that has been accorded them. So not only are you not an immigrant, but even when they call you an immigrant, they don't give you the benefits that an immigrant gets. And they have systematically been kept in a minority status to prevent them from acquiring power and wealth. Even when they were a majority in Louisiana, Mississippi, and Georgia, Alabama, and South Carolina, they were still powerless. And today, as majority populations in large cities, they are still powerless as a group. One city that comes to mind when I think about that is Detroit. Dr. Anderson mentions Detroit a lot as a city that is extraordinary because you got so many damn Black people and so little power. It's absolutely astonishing how little power Black people in Detroit have when it comes to how their city is being run. And they should be absolutely outraged about that. It's absolutely ridiculous. Number 2, integration in its present form deters Blacks from establishing and maintaining a strong sense of community togetherness and peoplehood. It engenders abandonment of the strong cultural traditions and values of Black heritage. The process contains some of the same conditioning techniques employed in slavery. So they still condition you like slaves. They still do things to you now that they did during slavery. For instance, integration places Blacks in the position of numerical weakness, subject to being monitored and controlled, rewarded and punished by whites. It forces Blacks to be loyal and to identify with the dominant white society. Some Blacks, perhaps out of a lack of racial pride or naivete, do not see the negative results of integration in its present form and continue to pursue it, regardless of how often they are rejected or exploited. I'm going to sit on that right there for a minute. That last sentence hit me, and let me just tell you why. I remember when I first finished my PhD, and I was on the faculty at Syracuse University. And I remember sitting with a lot of really intelligent, brilliant Black people who had PhDs, the highest level of education you could attain. And I've never met a bigger pack of cowards in my life. They were kind of like the kids in the school who were desperately in need of some sort of affirmation or validation from the cool kids. They desperately wanted to be liked. They were bending and folding and acquiescing and shimmering and just like literally. It was interesting to me because I remember thinking, here are some of the smartest people I know, most highly educated, hardest working people I know, who literally are behaving like a bunch of bug-eyed slaves in terms of being just so afraid of the penalty and the punishment that would come from even speaking your mind, right? So what would end up happening is, and you see this sometimes, and I'm not making fun of it at all. You know, I have a few thousand people that follow me on LinkedIn, and you'll see that maybe in that LinkedIn culture. Like, I'm not making fun of it at all, I promise you. But there's a lot of like, pay attention to how congratulatory the culture is when a Black person says, hey, I just got a new promotion, or hey, I just got recognized by this white-owned magazine, and everybody's like, congrats, way to go, woohoo, right? Now, I'm not trying to say that's bad. I'm not making fun of that. If you're in that category, don't leave. Like, stay. I need you to hear this, because we love you too. But what I want you to understand is that to some extent, low self-esteem causes you to sell yourself short. You see, the best thing I think a Black person can accomplish is not a bachelor's degree or master's degree or pay raise or promotion. The best thing you can accomplish is a self-awareness that helps you understand how valuable you are, that you never needed their validation in the first place. So to some extent, a lot of us Black professionals, us highly educated Negroes with letters behind their name, we are like, remember in The Wizard of Oz, I think it was Wizard of Oz, where Dorothy thought she needed the golden slippers to get back home and say no place like home or whatever, and they were like, oh no, sorry, it was the lion. Or remember how the lion and the Tin Man, like, they thought they needed this extra shit in order to be relevant? Like, the lion was like, I need to go see the wizard so I can get courage, and they were like, the courage is inside of you, dumbass. Like, just stop being such a punk, right? And the Tin Man was like, I need a heart. I don't have a heart, but he's crying and wailing and everything the whole time. It's like, yeah, you always had a heart, right? So ultimately, to some extent, we're like the lion and the Tin Man. And was there a third one? The Scarecrow. Yeah, the Scarecrow. Scarecrow's always scared. Michael Jackson played the Scarecrow. He's the best Scarecrow ever. Y'all got to go. Y'all got to remember The Wiz. Anybody else see The Wiz? Remember, you can't win. You can't break even. Great Michael Jackson. I digress. So I recommend it. If you're too young to remember it, go watch The Wiz. Brilliant movie. Anyway, I think that's kind of what we are sometimes. Like, we're like the Scarecrow and the Lion and the Tin Man, where we are looking for the wizard, who ain't got no real power, but he gives you a perception of power. He's got a loud, booming voice. I'm the wizard. I'm the mighty wizard, right? And he's sitting behind this curtain, and you believe that the wizard is special. You think that white people have some sort of magic fairy dust up their butts that makes them better than you. And you don't realize that when you go behind the curtain, you find out, wait a minute, y'all ain't really all of that. Like, actually, we were the sauce the whole time. We were special the entire time. Like there really is such a thing. That, I mean, it's in a lot of spaces you do see these magical things Black people can do that almost nobody else can do anywhere, and it makes actually logical sense. I'm not here to make some sort of Black supremacist argument. I'm not saying that at all, but I need you to really process this, especially those of you that are African American. I know some of you are from overseas, and this would apply to you as well to an extent. But think about this, right? Like, there's no other group of people that's gone through what you've gone through and survived it all. Nobody. There's nobody on Earth in the history of this planet that's gone through. I mean, the middle half. Think about it. The slave dungeons. Have you ever been to the slave dungeons? The slave dungeons were terrible. Lots of people died in the slave dungeons. Only the strongest survived the slave dungeons. Then, after you survived the slave dungeons, you had to go through the Middle Passage, where half the slaves died in the Middle Passage. You survived that. Right? Then after that, you had another 250 years of the most brutal slavery in the history of all mankind. You are the descendants of the survivors of that. Those who did not have the strength to survive that, those bloodlines are dead, right? You also survived these other crazy things they did, like they would take the strongest slaves and they would breed them together. They had these breeding farms where they breed the strongest slaves. I don't see. I mean, really, if you're really being honest about it, there's no way you could go through all of that and not have something special about you. Not have something special. And you see pieces of that evidence from a physical standpoint. Just go watch the Super Bowl and look at how many Black men are out there that that literally would scare the hell out of every white person that they see. Right. But the thing is, I also believe that intellectually we have that. I believe that we've got something special. And I think it's important to tap into that. So if you spend more time focusing on what's great about you and less time focusing on what you think is great about them, then you're going to go a whole lot further in your life. And if you want to know my personal secret to so-called success or whatever this is that I accomplished, it literally was when I hit that turning point where I said, I'm going to stop shuffling and stumbling, trying to keep up with what you want me to be. And I'm simply going to become the best version of what I am, and then let the chips fall where they may. I'm not going to spend my whole life reacting to what you did toward me. You're going to spend your life reacting to what I do toward you. When I shifted my mindset, I remember exactly when it happened. It happened when I was 28 and a half years old. When that happened, that is when my superpower unleashed. That is when the Boyce Watkins that you know today was born. I swear to God. So let me keep reading. Let me jump back in. All right. So here on page 197, Black Labor, White Wealth, Dr. Anderson's books. You can get them at powernomics.com, by the way. I hope that everybody will support Dr. Anderson's books. And also, if anybody wants to get all the lectures, I think we're on our 30-something lecture in this book club series. So if you want to get all the other lectures and just have them, you can go to drboycebookclub.com. So feel free to go to drboycebookclub.com and you can download all of that stuff. All right, so let's see here. Number 2. Integration in its current form deters Blacks from establishing and maintaining a strong sense of community togetherness and peoplehood. Okay, we already read that. He said, number 3, integration gives the illusion, circle the word illusion, that a racial or ethnic group's numerical size is unimportant. So it gives you the illusion that size doesn't matter. But it does matter, particularly in a democracy, when you do things like vote, right? Nothing could be further from the truth. Democratic societies operate on the basic principle that the majority wins and unity is power. In competitive group politics and economics, the integrating group is disabled, especially when they do not stick together. By fragmenting its members, they become permanent losers. So the goal of integration was basically to divide and conquer. If they keep you divided, then they can conquer you. When you start to unite, you become very difficult to defeat. Next, so number 4, integration works only when Blacks stay in their assigned, subordinate, powerless, scattered positions. Whites generally support integration as long as it doesn't increase the presence of Blacks beyond 5 to 8%. When that happens, they generally feel that their positions, personal security, prestige, and wealth are threatened. Studies have shown this. This is why you can never have, this is why everybody can't succeed if all we do is send our children to go work for white people. Because most white companies will stop hiring Black people when they get to a point where they're about 7% Black. Once it gets to about 7% Black, they start to feel like they're living in a black neighborhood. And you know what they do when they're in a black neighborhood? The property value drops and you leave, right? So a company typically will hire a few black people. They'll hire the chosen shiny Negroes, and then the masses of black people can't get that same opportunity. So what happens with sports and celebrity and everything else is those few elite blacks who get those opportunities are paraded as false hope for the millions that think that they might be the next LeBron James or might be the next Jay-Z. These tokens, thank you, Bernard, great word. These tokens are used as a tool to control the masses. Go watch the movie The Hunger Games, and what you'll see is exactly what America does when it comes to black people. The only way black people can accumulate wealth and power is if some of these individuals, these shiny Negroes on TV, are able to think in an industrial capacity to ask themselves a very basic question. I've had a lot of success. How do I multiply my success so that I can help thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of other black people? Byron Allen loves to lean on race when he's filing lawsuits and everything, and God bless him. I hope he wins all of them. But I'd love for Byron Allen to show his genius, Kanye West to show their genius by showing where they have gone out and employed 20,000 black people. If they can show me that they've employed 20,000 black people, not entertained 20,000 black people, that's easy. Anybody can do that. But employed 20,000, well, 20,000 people can say my life is economically better because of something this person did. Then I'll be impressed. Then I'll be like, okay, that's what a billionaire is supposed to do. Because remember, Jeff Bezos created 1.6 million jobs for mostly white people. Elon Musk created about 500,000 jobs with SpaceX and all these other companies he's running. What black industrialists do we have out here that can say, I've employed thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of my people? Let's keep going. Next, number 5, page 197, Black Labor, White Wealth. A strong sense of community springs from group power. Institutions must be constructed within black communities to attract and retain wealth, information, and power. So WIP, crack that whip. WIP, get it? I love acronyms. The WIP, wealth, information, and power. Wealth, information, and power. They're all connected. Wealth, information, power. Knowledge is power. Institutional power is more potent and lasting than individual power. So stop celebrating these one-off, these one-off loudmouths that they give a great speech and make you feel good. Focus on institutional power. Institutions can outlive an individual. Institutions outlive individuals. For instance, white wealth and political power is manifest through a wide variety of organizations and institutions. These entities are financed and directed by governments and corporate leaders who protect and enhance the privileged social position of their race. Recommendations. 1, blacks must cease using the term minority. I hate that word. Makes you feel so tiny. I'm a minority. I want to be minor. I just want to be small. We minority. We need more opportunity for minorities. Doesn't that sound wimpy? Doesn't that sound stupid? Like, I'm just a minority. There's no masculine man I've ever met who would feel comfortable just referring to himself as minor all the time, right? And so no, I'm not a minority. That's not a term you're gonna hear me use ever. They must reject using the term minority and resist any other categorical, ambiguous terms that equate them with other racial, ethnic, gender, or class groups. Centuries of statutory enslavement, exploitation, and subordination have imposed unique problems and conditions upon blacks. By using blacks as a model for redressing grievances, any group that perceives itself as aggrieved gets the thrill without the bill. In other words, they get the advantages of being perceived as victims without having to endure the historical suffering of blacks, and they gain greater acceptance within mainstream society by being self-sufficient and conservative. Stop letting other people categorize you. When you jump in the bathtub, stop letting 8 people get in the bathtub with you. The water's going to get funky. You don't take a bath with 8 people. You take a bath by yourself. So when you jump in the tub, don't let 8 people get in the tub with you and bring all their dirt and nastiness with. No, keep them out the damn bathtub. Take that bath. You earned it. You earned it. Number 2, all black self-empowerment activities must contribute to building a strong sense of peoplehood and commitment to the acculturation principle of taking care of oneself one's family, and one's race. Take care of your damn self. Do for self. Ain't nothing wrong with that. A true sense of peoplehood is not the same as the rhetoric of brotherhood and sisterhood. Like whites, blacks will have differences of opinion and intra-racial differences and disagreements, but black lives are interconnected by virtue of their color. Notice he used that term black lives, like almost like Black Lives Matter, and he's wrote this book 30 years ago. Black lives are interconnected by virtue of their color, so blacks must be committed to moving towards mutually beneficial goals. This principle extends to international businesses and dealings with African and Caribbean nations. Black Americans and Black Africans should first learn to deal with Black nations to which they have natural links before dealing with white colonialists. Power will increase in direct proportion to the degree of unity among Black people. So by simply coming together, you are creating Black wealth. Give me a yes in the chat if you follow what I'm saying. By simply coming together, you are creating Black wealth. You don't have to get another paycheck. They don't have to pay you no reparations in order for this to happen. You don't have to wait for they don't put another drop in the bucket. They don't put another drop in the bucket. Just by coming together, you're creating Black wealth. This is not just speculation. This is not just some emotive statement being made by Dr. Anderson. This isn't just an arm-waving analysis he's doing in the book. This is actual economic theory. There is economic theory I can point to that will show you that by simply coming together, you create wealth. London became one of the richest cities on earth and one of the first cities in the Western Hemisphere to have over 1 million people because of the Thames River that brought people together. Literally, they brought them together because when they brought them together, there was increased amounts of trade. Wherever there's trade, there's power. So when Black people come together and make a conscious decision to say, I will trade with you because you're Black. I want to trade with Black people. I'm looking for a business. Which one's the Black one? But are they Black though? Where the Black where the Black restaurants at? Where the Black people at? I want to buy from Black-owned business. When you start talking like that and you're really about it like that, like you're really an economic soldier for Black people and you're doing your absolute best to support Black business as much as possible, you are adding to Black wealth in a very positive way. You're doing more than you could ever do with a bunch of Negroes getting bachelor's degrees. You're doing more than you could ever do with a bunch of Negroes getting jobs for corporations. You're doing more than you'll ever do with everybody picking up student loans. You're just by coming together and supporting each other economically and connecting, you are increasing Black wealth by a magnitude of multiple trillions of dollars over the next generation or 2 or 3. That is what you're doing. You're literally changing the world. So the fact that we're together right now, there's about 800 of us right now talking to each other, right? The fact that we're together right now is we're making wealth right now. We're making Black wealth right now. So that's why. So if I seem like I'm excited, it's because we're getting paid right now. We're making money. We're building Black power just by communicating on this important issue. Everything that's in my brain, and I believe me, I got a lot of stuff in here. I've been studying this stuff for a long time. Everything that's in my brain is now in your brain. We have connected. We have helped each other grow. That is wealth, people. This is power. Let's keep going. And we're doing it ourselves. I didn't have to ask no white man's permission. God, stop asking for permission. Just go be you. Number 2. Wait, hold on. Number 3, sorry about that. Blacks should develop a sense of community togetherness patterned after white society. Okay. For centuries, white society has been so solidly committed to European ethnic culture and attitudes about race and power. Their strong sense of peoplehood has permitted them to go to war with other communities, other members of their own community, yet regroup and fight common enemies. Whites' sense of community helps them to prioritize issues and people and to decide how best to employ their wealth and power for the good of their group. Okay, so you can learn a few things, right, from your adversaries, right? They have accumulated some power, right? Number 4, Blacks must recapture the sense of a national Black community that they had before the 1960 civil rights protest period. Black cooperation and unity are essential tools for building empowerment, especially within the critically short time frame that remains. There will be little time for petty power struggles during the next decade. So he's saying this in the 1990s. A Washington-based Black think tank, the Harvest Institute, is currently being formed to provide some guidance in this area. That's Dr. Anderson's institute. That's something I suggest you look up. It could use economic support all the time. At the very least, I hope that you will consider going to powernomics.com, buying some of his books. And if you already have the books, buy some more and give them to your relatives. I really am imploring you, if that's something that you feel compelled to do. This stuff takes money, and I believe Dr. Anderson and his people have given us something. I tell Dr. Anderson all the time. I say I thank you so much. Like, he thanks me for sharing his message to you guys. But I thank him for writing these damn books, because it took so. I mean, if you go through all of his books, it's very impressive how much research he did on all the things that a lot of us never would have known otherwise. We never would have got taught this in school. And so, yeah, so you're right, Anthony. Dr. Anderson really is the GOAT. Um, I'm not even the baby GOAT. I don't know what the hell I am, but I submit to the GOAT. I give it. I would not be what I am without people like him. Okay. All right. So, powernomics.com is his website. Also, just a reminder, if you want to get copies of all the lectures we've done up until this point, feel free to go to drboycebookclub.com. You can go take a look at what's there. And also, those of you that are listening online, just know that I'm about to shut down the outdoor feed. So if you'd like to join us for the rest of the book club meeting, just go to boycewatkins.com and you can click the link for the Dr. Boyce Book Club. You can come into the Zoom. So I'm going to shut this down right in 1 second. And Anthony says the Powernomics website's down. Okay, I'm going to send a text to Dr. Anderson's wife. Hopefully it's down, because there have been so many orders, but I want to make sure that they're good and they're taken care of. And I have some copies of Dr. Anderson's books as well in my bookstore. So if they ever run out, I can let you guys buy some of our copies. But honestly, I'd rather you buy it from them. We just keep our copies as like emergency reserves in case the supply runs low. Okay. All right. So